There was a time within the memory of men still working when buyers from those packing companies sat in those stands and bid against each other in front of everybody. They stopped showing up, and nobody wrote it down anywhere the public would read it. USDA reports show historic cattle prices, yet multi-generational operations are vanishing through forced liquidation and foreclosure. This raises two fundamental questions. Why does a rancher go out of business when the headline price of their product is higher than ever? And what happens when a producer has no rival buyers left to bargain against? To find the answer, look at the auction ring. An operator offers calves, and buyers compete. If a man stops bidding at 70, the calves sell at 160, and the losing bidder puts money in a stranger's pocket simply by showing up. He is the main source of price competition in the room, forcing the winning bid upward. But when that second bidder vanishes, the math breaks. A rancher doesn't go broke from a packer's profit margin. A rancher goes broke from having nobody to argue with. This systemic silence stretches far beyond the local sale barn. Today, most fed cattle bypass public auction rings entirely, moving through direct, forward, or formula agreements. Under these private arrangements, animals are delivered directly to the packer, yet their price is still calculated from a benchmark set by the few remaining open negotiations. This separates the physical place of sale from the actual place of price discovery. An entire national market now relies on a shrinking index of independent trades to value millions of cattle. As this public bidding pool dries up, it leaves a narrowing base of independent buyers as an unresolved pressure point, passed directly down to the producers at the start of the chain. This business starts at the very beginning of the chain, where a cow-calf rancher manages breeding and a 9-month gestation period. Once born, calves spend their first 6 months grazing alongside their mothers. During this early rearing phase, the rancher absorbs every immediate cost, from land, feed, and labor to veterinary care, interest, and unpredictable weather, all before seeing any return. At 6 months, weaning marks the transition. The calves are sold to a backgrounder, a separate operator who assumes a different set of risks. Backgrounders buy these weaned animals to manage their growth over the next 6 months. Their success depends on weight gain, feed costs, transportation, and resale timing as the price shifts with each handoff of the same animal. The cattle now enter the feedlot for finishing. This is where operators transition the animals to high-energy rations, rapidly building their weight to a target of 1,300 to 1,400 pounds. A feedlot manager operates on a knife edge. They must finance the high price of the incoming feeder cattle while managing feed costs, interest rates, labor, and herd mortality. Timing is everything. Keeping cattle in the pens a week too long can erase any hope of a return. The final sale to the processor represents the thin margin left after months of accumulated debts. At this fourth stage, the packer operates entirely separate from the feedlot, taking finished cattle for slaughter and processing into inspected boxed beef. Here, the expected competing buyer is visibly absent from the auction stands. Under federal guidelines, any market is classified as highly concentrated when its Herfindahl-Hirschman index exceeds 2,500, a completely different measure than simple market share. Within this framework, 4 dominant firms control the gate: Tyson Foods, Cargill, JBS, and National Beef. In 2026, these 4 corporations purchased approximately 85% of all steers and heifers across the United States. In the early 20th century, a nearly identical crisis unfolded when a handful of meatpackers known as the Beef Trust seized control of the nation's livestock markets, dictating terms to producers who had no other buyers. To break this monopoly, Congress passed the Packers and Stockyards Act of 1921. The statute targeted unfair, discriminatory, deceptive, and manipulative practices, establishing the Department of Agriculture as a permanent watchdog over the market. For 60 years, federal regulators actively enforced these rules, maintaining competitive safeguards and protecting independent operators. But the law was never repealed. Instead, the enforcement itself changed. Beginning in the 1980s, policy shifts and budget reductions quieted the regulatory agency. The systematic oversight that once protected the open market slowed to a halt, leaving the decades-old law on the books but largely empty of its original power. To measure this structural shift over time, competition scholars track the four-firm concentration ratio, which defines the combined market share of the largest four buyers. In 1980, USDA records show these top packers purchased just 36% of the nation's steers and heifers. By 1992, that national share jumped to 71%. This rapid consolidation was propelled by historic mergers, such as Tyson's purchase of Iowa beef processors in 2001 and JBS's acquisition of Swift in 2007, culminating in today's 85% market control. This structure has created an oligopoly, a market design where thousands of independent livestock sellers face only a tiny handful of major buyers. While agricultural economists emphasize that high concentration within this cattle category is not, on its own, proof of illegal conduct, it marks a fundamental realignment of leverage in the pasture. A negotiated cash trade is a direct agreement between a buyer and a seller for immediate or near-immediate delivery, where the price is determined through real-time bargaining. In 2004, this open negotiated trade accounted for approximately 55% of all fed cattle transactions. By 2019, that share collapsed to approximately 23%. In its place, forward and formula arrangements rose to govern approximately 70% of the market. These contracts offer feedlots valuable predictability, guaranteeing a buyer and a schedule weeks in advance. Yet the formula prices in these private agreements are directly tied to the shrinking negotiated cash market. This means the tiny fraction of remaining cash trades establishes the benchmark for the entire industry. When the public reference pool narrows, a handful of transactions dictate the value of millions of cattle that never see an auction. This benchmark dependence strips sellers of their ability to test multiple bids, anchoring the entire national price to a disappearing foundation. The USDA Agricultural Marketing Service collects this transaction data through livestock mandatory reporting, but this system operates under strict confidentiality safeguards, known as the 370-20 rule, designed to keep individual corporate buyers anonymous. Under these guidelines, the agency cannot publish regional price reports unless at least 3 separate packing companies submit data. Also, no single buyer can account for more than 70% of the total volume, and no single firm can be the sole reporter for more than 20% of the days in a 60-day window. When a region fails to meet these criteria, the government suppresses the price data, citing insufficient buyer participation. This does not mean transactions stopped. It means the actual price paid remains hidden, leaving ranchers to negotiate in the dark against the benchmark that has vanished from public view. The meat packers present a stark defense based on their own internal balance sheets. They often operate at a significant loss. For the week of May 23, 2025, estimated packer margins fell to negative $347.20 per head, even as the wholesale boxed beef cutout averaged $398.82 per hundredweight. This cutout is a gross spread indicator, not a direct measure of net corporate profit. These margins swing wildly due to sudden capacity bottlenecks, such as pandemic plant disruptions and the Holcomb fire that knocked out 21% of processing capacity. But this operational loss exposes the core structural issue. A temporary deficit at the packing plant does not prove that the upstream buying market for live cattle is competitive. Federal scrutiny arrived on April 21, 2026, when the Justice Department opened a criminal antitrust investigation into Tyson, Cargill, JBS, and National Beef. Investigators reportedly reviewed over 3 million documents, targeting potential price fixing, market allocation, and bid rigging. Yet as of August 21, 2026, With no indictments or settlements announced, any legal resolution faces an unyielding biological clock. Even if federal actions restore competition, they cannot instantly rebuild a depleted supply. On January 1, 2026, the national herd fell to 86.2 million head, the lowest since 1951, with a breeding base of just 27.6 million beef cows. Tightness intensified after a May 11, 2025 border restriction on Mexican cattle imports, which only began a phased reopening in July 2026. It still takes 2 years to turn a calf into beef. In the end, the crisis is not the packers' ledger, but the silence at the sale barn. Consider the simple arithmetic of the auction ring. A second bidder stops at 70, forcing the winner to pay 160. That losing bidder buys nothing, yet he puts money in a stranger's pocket simply by showing up and forcing his rival higher. When that competing voice disappears, the rancher's bargaining position collapses. A rancher doesn't go broke from a packer's profit margin. A rancher goes broke from having nobody to argue with. Legal interventions may reshape the market, but no ruling shortens a gestation. Today, the silence at the sale barn remains. While courtrooms debate antitrust violations, ranchers face a market with no competing bidders left to fight for them. The justice system moves slowly, but biology answers to an unyielding clock. Legal battles may eventually rewrite the rules, but no ruling shortens a gestation.